So I wanted to take a year off, and now I'm thinking about going doing a type of overseas teaching.
All right.
So it's a program where you teach overseas.
Any countries in mind?
Dubai.
Dubai, huh?
Gotta have it, man.
Have you ever been to the Middle East?
I haven't been to the Middle East.
Okay.
I haven't, and Dubai is like number one on my bucket list.
Yeah. Chris Hall and I, shout out to Cupcake. We on our way to Bali last year, we planned our trip so that we would have a 12-hour layover in Abu Dhabi.
Oh, that's not enough, man.
Yeah.
12 hours, that's just like peekaboo.
Well, we got a good taste. We actually had an issue at the airport. They wouldn't bring us up our chairs, and they had those chairs that you have to get pushed around in.
Yeah.
And we were like, no, you guys don't understand. Like, we have a 12-hour layover. Like, we were planning on leaving.
So basically, like the hospital chairs that they have.
Yeah, and it wasn't even had the big wheels. You had to get pushed around. I had to go take a piss, and like the guy had to push me into the stall, sit there and wait while I, did my thing, and then push me back out. And I was just like, okay, this isn't gonna work.
Yeah, this is not.
So it ended up taking us like almost 2 hours to get our chairs, but when we finally did, we went to one of the museums there, the Louvre Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
And man, it was one of the it's one of the most intricate like buildings that I'd ever seen. I really should pull up a picture, man. But it's like the for one, they sectioned off, they levied off a section of the sea, drained it out, and then built the museum on top of where the water was.
They built everything.
And they let it reflood. So the whole museum's on top of water. And then they built like this dome that went over it, and it's like it almost looks like a crow's nest because it's like 8 sheets of just different geometric patterns, and it lets like sunlight through in certain spots. So when you're underneath the dome, there's like there's sunspots.
Oh, sweet.
And if you sit and look at it long enough, because the sun's moving, the shapes will either get larger or start disappearing. And so throughout the day, there's sunspots just popping up and disappearing.
What's like the main theme of the museum? Is it just the history of?
It's the history of the world. So it's kind of like a Smithsonian.
Okay.
But what's really interesting is the way it's set up is it's a timeline, and you start in the early like 10,000 BC artifacts that they find. But it's from all over the world. So, when you get to like 2000 BC, you can look at artifacts that they found in China right next to artifacts that they found in Egypt, right next to artifacts that they found in South America. So you can kind of see what was going on around in the world at the same time. And then when you get into like, the modern era, when like the 1700s.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, wow, like, Europe was doing this and America was still just a colony. And Spanish Inquisition was going on down in South America. Like,
that's interesting.
It was really cool to go through a museum like that.
It's interesting to see that country would have artifacts of other countries.
Oh man, it's all that oil. It's all that oil money.
Yeah, and so did it all tie back to Abu Dhabi? Like the artifacts were.
Oh, they had artifacts that they found, like in the Middle East, in like especially Egypt, but also Mesopotamia and like all those places. Sweet. It was really cool, man.
Yeah, I definitely want to get to the Middle East.
Yeah, and then we went to the Grand Mosque, which is this mosque that they built. I think it just opened up. I mean, just
that's
recently.
the one I had on Facebook. I think Chris put it on
Facebook. Yep.
Oh,
yeah.
my God.
It's actually it's been floating around on a PVA commercial.
I seen it. I seen it on. It was one of y'all Facebook, and I was like, oh my God, that's beautiful. I definitely want to visit that.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, they
it's like godly.
Because we were just wearing like we were traveling, so we were just wearing gym shorts and like tank tops, and we actually had to put on a robe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are they pretty strict about that?
Oh yeah, it's still. I mean, it's the Middle East, but it's kind of more like the Middle Easy side of things, where they're a little more like relaxed.
Middle Easy.
But it was a great experience, man.
Yeah, I definitely want to. Yeah, the UAE is number one on my bucket list, and I still have a bunch of countries I want to hit, but that's like number one.
Yeah. Man, I've only been in the Middle East twice. I went to Jerusalem and in Israel like
and that's
2 years
that's
ago.
full of history.
Oh, it was incredible. Yeah,
history.
I was in Tel Aviv for a while. The reason I went was one of my buddies from Oregon served in the IDF, and then ended up staying there and going to school, and you know, he was gonna get married and come back home. So I was like, well, I got to go visit Israel while I know a buddy that lives there that can show me around.
Yeah.
So I went with my brother for 2 weeks. Man, it was an incredible trip.
That was accessibility wise, what would you say is your assessment of that area?
Abu Dhabi. I didn't have any problems in Abu Dhabi. Everything's still pretty modern. They had you know, the individual bathrooms where you it's kind of, I don't know if you've ever been over to Asia, but they have.
Haven't been Asia yet.
They have like individual bathrooms that you just, you know, you hit a button, the sliding door opens, and you go in, you hit the lock, and there's
the super
yeah,
up-to-date
it's a suite. It's a suite.
Okay.
Some of them will even have like a changing mat. I think I have even seen some that have like a shower in them. It's incredible, but yeah, Abu Dhabi wasn't that bad. Surprisingly, like the cab drivers speak a lot of English.
Yeah.
And you know, from what I saw, the sidewalks and the curb cuts, you know, and everything was pretty much flat. We didn't really, because you're in the middle of the desert, so everything's completely flat.
What about Jerusalem? Because I know that's older.
I will say Abu Dhabi was hot as hell. I think this was
I'm sure the whole.
I'm pretty sure. I think this was in July, middle of July. And it was like 44 degrees Celsius, which comes out to like 110 plus.
Nice.
I don't know what the humidity was, but it was
how's
slick.
the air?
The humidity was slick. I mean, when we were pushed around that museum for like 4 hours, and we ended up pushing outside in the courtyard, and as soon as we opened the doors to go outside, I went to go push my wheels. My hands just slipped. I almost fell out of my chair and then my sunglasses glazed over, and I mean,
so
my wheels just went from dry to just slick. Man.
So basically, the humidity is very humid over there.
Oh yeah. I mean, because it's you're right on. Well, I forget what sea that is, but yeah, you're right on the water.
Mediterranean? No, that's more of.
I think it might be the Red Sea. I'm gonna sound really stupid right now.
Yeah, I already kind of opened my mouth and started for it.
So. Tel Aviv was, if I was gonna rate it, I'd say like maybe a C.
Why?
Just because it's a little bit hilly.
On the accessibility scale.
The curb cuts might have like a 2-inch lip that you have to wheelie over.